Hi. Oh man, it's been a minute. I think I streamed 2 days ago, so I just missed yesterday's. Your call, Pingu? What do you mean your call? We're live. I love demonetization, but I know you love me because you demonetize all my videos. Why are you doing that? I gotta change my binds real quick. For the few amount of scenarios that I do have, hello? I'm pressing a new key. Oh, it's already used? That sucks. There we go. There we go. Hey. That's better. Please how to help self-confidence and stop choking in fights. I assume you're talking about self-confidence in a game sense, not just in a kovaaks or like a general sense, right? I'll answer that based on what you say. Can you do Apex gameplay? Yeah, I'll definitely play Apex later on. I think I've been sufficiently tilted by my YouTube comment section on the Apex video that I want to read some of the real stinkers out the chat. You know, I want to you know, get some other opinions, respond to the state of Apex questions that I get. Oh wait, I gotta turn on mouse accel. That's quite important for the mouse accel experiment. I knew something felt wrong. It is pretty interesting that even after using no mouse accel for like my entire life, and now just using mouse accel after half a month, it feels more natural to have mouse accel on now. I'm glad I inspired people, you know? I don't think I'm some sort of dedication master, and certainly not when it comes to like in my past. I've definitely made a lot of I've definitely had a lot of issues with self-motivation and like staying dedicated to things that I care about. But I'm glad that people do appreciate the mindset that I have going into things. And if I can inspire someone to pick up any skill, like it doesn't have to be one of the ones that I enjoy or have tried. I'm just happy to see people who want to improve at something. Those are like honestly some of my favorite types of comments when people come by the video and it's like, I don't know what it is, but I want to do something now. My aim feels very, very bad right now. But it is one wall small, you know. This is where it's gonna be the most obvious. Can you play Modern Warfare? I've played a decent amount of off stream. People have said like, let's go play the multiplayer while you have the free trial right now, and I don't really want to. Like the only reason I enjoy Warzone as much as I do is for like I think it's like really fun with friends because that game is really silly, right? In a casual sense. But the gunplay is really not its strength. It's not bad. It's not bad, especially for a COD game. But I don't like... I feel like they're trying to strike a weird middle ground between realism and arcadey with the newer COD games, right? And I don't think that's where COD should be. Like, that's my opinion as someone who was really into Call of Duty in the Modern Warfare 2 era, up to Black Ops 1, but Modern Warfare 2 is my favorite. I like the fact that it was arcadey, it was unrealistic, but it was fast, it was fun, you know, that kind of thing. I'm okay with recoil. I'm not okay with screen shake. Screen shake is an awful mechanic, and it's really frustrating. Well, not frustrating, it's just annoying. So I don't think a multiplayer that will just force me to play exclusively the gunplay would be the best for me. Do you play video games more freely or more focus-based? I definitely have a habit of trying too hard, or trying hard at pretty much everything I do. Like someone asked me the other day, when you play Type Racer and Bomb Party, do you play to win? I'm like, the answer is yes, and that's a little embarrassing, I guess, because like they're very meaningless. But you know, that's just how I am. I like winning, and I'm a competitive person. I'm driven by competition, and if competition inspires me to play better, then that's how it is, you know, that's a good thing. As for whether or not I play games freely, when I play Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Warzone rather, I do it exclusively to kill time, more or less, and spend time with friends. taking that game seriously would actually kill me. I still get frustrated with it at time to time. I try to do well, but it's mostly like I let other people take the lead a lot of the times because I think it's funny to see what kind of ideas they come up with, and when it works out, I'm like, okay, well, that was cool. But in Apex, I'll typically take the lead because I'm pretty okay at IGLing. Why mouse accel? Basically, the idea is that you can use quite low sense when you move your mouse slowly. So for like long range tracking or precision in general, that comes with low sense. You have that benefit, but you also have the benefit of being able to have nice, quick, snappy sensitivity if you want to. And I actually changed my sensitivity graph yesterday. I was doing quite well in Apex, and I think it's better for me. I've lost a little precision because my graph is generally a bit faster. But I was feeling really sluggish. I love low sense, and I like engaging my arm, but in the heat of the moment, I just don't have that muscle memory to a sufficient degree to track with my whole arm. Like, I can use it as a pivot point to like place my wrist aim, but to actually have it perform a function while tracking is difficult. It's really hard for me. I respect those who can play with stupidly low sense and not feel encumbered by it, because when it's working well, it feels great. Oh, I just AFK'd for half of that run. Low mouse accel, bad idea, IMO. Yeah, I'm not using Kovaak's mouse accel. I don't even know if it has one, actually. I would be shocked. And if they was implemented, it would be good. No, they don't. Yeah. Kovaak is the one who made the GUI for this mouse accel. Let me put it on stream real quick as a demonstration. But the traditional mouse accel, like the enhanced pointer precision, is not what I'm working with here. There is an extreme amount of customization that goes into this mouse accel nonsense. Basically, as you go to the right of the graph, it's the faster that you move your mouse, and then the line is the sensitivity. I've added a sensitivity cap, so I get to my high sensitivity a little faster. I was having that issue of always feeling a little too slow, and I moved it up by 0.1, so now I'm at 0.9 at the highest, 1.8 at the, sorry, 1.9 at the lowest, 1.8 at the highest. And it's been working quite well for me. It's been comfy. Lots of Valorant questions. I have watched a good amount of Valorant. Yesterday, I took a day off from streaming because I wanted to finish up a project that I took on before the YouTube thing started. And before I got started with it, I was watching some Valorant streams. So I watched Sideshow and I watched Asu mostly. And it's okay. I would say that it really wears its CS influence on its sleeve, and I think that's not a bad thing, right? I would rather it show its CS influence than its Overwatch influence, to be honest. Like, it's Twitch shooter, you hold angles, and you can honestly do quite well without even touching your abilities. If your mechanical skill, and like if you're a top CS player, you're gonna be a top Valorant player without question, right? But if you're a top Overwatch player, it probably won't translate all that well. Like, some DPS players can definitely flex, or can definitely play that kind of game, but it's not really about ability timings, not really about like the exact ability coordination, stuff like that. It's a lot of like raw aim and the CS typical roles where you perform executes on sites, retakes, etc. And that's fine. As for what I think of it, I don't know. I still don't think it's my type of game. I kind of just... It's exceeded my expectations a little bit in the sense that the abilities are fairly subtle, right? They're not over the top. They're not super obnoxious. They don't aim anything for you. And I appreciate that a great deal. I think that's good game design for an FPS. Especially one that's like a Twitch shooter. When I saw the original gameplay trailer with like the random people playing and having a good time, it looked like a visual mess. It seemed like the abilities were really obtrusive, but it's just a smoke grenade, right? I think that's what kind of put me off. It just looks strange. And I will say the visual style of Valorant, I think, needs some work. I heard that someone who was working on TF2, like TF2's art design, is also working on the Valorant team, which is definitely a good thing because I think TF2 has aged actually quite well. in terms of like looking decent despite being 13 years old, right? There aren't that many games that are 13 years old and still look okay to the modern eye. But I do think it's a little washed out still. It really does not stand out visually, and that's okay. I don't really care about it that much. It's not a problem per se, but you know, I feel like they will change it and probably increase the saturation a little bit. But it's a good thing. But as for the agent design, it's pretty fine. I'm pretty much okay. I don't love. No, I mean it's mostly fine. Jets like wide peaks I think could probably be pretty annoying. But I mean it's not easy to aim off of those either. It takes a long time to bring back your weapon too. It seems relatively balanced. And honestly, the thing that really gets me above anything else in that game is the fact that Riot gives a shit, right? When was the last time that I played a freaking game with a developer who cared about the competitive scene, feedback, and like stuff, the really minute stuff that no one even notices, like net play and like anti-cheat? That's not easy to implement, and they care about it. Things like combating Peeker's advantage was a buzzword they threw around, and I think that's, you know, a noble effort. Having hitboxes that are all consistent, that's actually such. I never thought I would miss having such consistent hitboxes. Like TF2 was absolutely fine with it, I guess, but Apex has been an absolute nightmare in terms of having different hitboxes, and I hate it a lot. So having everyone have the same one, oh, beautiful, beautiful news. Music to my ears. But seriously, the fact that Riot cares is such an anomaly in the modern FPS market. Like, let me go through my game history real quick. In the past, like, 10 years, I played. Okay, Os doesn't count. Pepe's actually pretty decent, although he's a little disconnected from his community. Os is fine. I played Bomb Party. Terrible, terrible, terrible developer, but he didn't care. Whatever. I played TF2. Probably one of the worst game developers of all time in terms of like maintaining their game and having repetitive content come out, or rather having more content come out. So bad, and they just completely failed to implement any sort of competitive matchmaking. Just awful, awful. I played Blade and Soul, milked their player base, killed their game, destroyed complexity, and ruined old dungeons. It's ugh. And I played Apex Legends. Respawn Entertainment, absolute shit show. They're doing some things right, but a lot of things wrong. So just to see a developer who's like, yeah, let's take pro player feedback. Let's make it so this game is as competitively like sanctimonious, that's the wrong word, as possible. That's, oh my god. It's actually insane how rare that is now. Oh, I've probably been asked this already, but did you try to get a key for the Valorant beta? I did, but not like excessively, right? I watched streams mostly just because out of curiosity, but also like, you know, if I got a key, that'd be cool. I don't play any of the games, but you're still interesting to watch, and to seeing you develop and improve your skills actually so motivating. Except Os. What do you mean? Remember when the lock and load was broken in OP for like a year? Oof. I hated that weapon. I hated it a lot. I felt like whenever I got hit by it, it was just like someone rolled a dice and got a correct number. Controller thoughts? Oh, I want to answer the question. Ever play Mortal? Not really aim-based, but technique is very important. So funnily enough, I actually had a pretty long stint of enjoyment with Chivalry Medieval Warfare, which is kind of like that game's predecessor, right? I don't think it's the same development team, but it's a very similar style of gameplay. And I loved the complexity that combat had under like the guise of a very simple game, right? You only have like 3 inputs, left click that has like some comboing, overhead mouse wheel down, and then poke with mouse wheel up. But it's the way you manipulate the swings with your mouse movement that made it very interesting. And stuff like footwork made it for like different timings and like mix-ups, right? So you kind of have like the intricacies of a fighting game in a first-person perspective. But on top of that, there was also some really weird, janky things that people didn't like at all, but I kind of loved. Things like you could turn upside down and then do an overhead, and you would swing. You would like instantly hit someone. It's like unreadable. So I understand why people don't like it, but God, was it cool. And when I got silent on someone doing that for the first time, like, I need to learn this right now. I believe it's called rainbowing, because you would swing your overhead back around for a second hit, if that was possible. I can't remember. So as for whether or not I'll play Mordhau, I think it would definitely be up my alley in terms of games I would enjoy, because I already enjoyed Chivalry, even just for its basic like dragging mechanics, right? But I will miss the jank that came along with Chivalry. It reminded me a little bit of Melee, in the sense that like it's a really easy game on the surface, but there's like a hidden layer of complexity that you only really understand after a lot of time and probably a little bit of research. Jump kicking is the meta. The accept was meant to, oh, I see, gotcha. Mordhau is very different. I have 1.5k hours in Mord, 800 in Chiv. I probably have like 400 in Chivalry. But I honestly played that game mostly with like school friends, because, you know, it was fun just to mess around in. This is a ridiculous game, especially with like the voice lines. They wore its the strangeness on its sleeve. Although I believe that game had terrible developers as well. I played Warframe. I want to bring this up because of the developer thing I was talking about. Would I consider DE a bad dev? That's a tough one. I think they're a good development team. Like, they do a lot of things right. The only thing that they don't do is like have depth in their end game, and that's a pretty big deal, right? I wouldn't say that DE is bad though. Like that's definitely not fair. So I can't put them with like people like Respawn and Valve. That's just disingenuous. Because they put in a lot of effort and they put out a lot of content. It's just that, I mean, there is a content drought, but it's mostly just the lack of replayability that their content has and the lack of depth, more so than the fact that they're not putting out content at all. My aim's not feeling so hot right now. It was doing real well last night in Apex, but we'll see. I will play Apex later. I think I'll bring in viewers that I've never played with. That'll be fun. I'll do my best to like make calls. Should be cool. I think there's no mouse pad. There is a mouse pad. Right. Thoughts on playing on controller. That's an okay score. Let me play a slightly easier scenario. Valve just straight up has 2 people working on TF2, but they could still communicate with us. Communication is such a big deal. Like, we don't care if there is stuff going on in the background if we never see it. Or at least we can't appreciate it, right? We can't appreciate it. And that's kind of how it was with Blade and Soul 2. There was one person on the development team that when they quit, everyone was like, but you didn't do anything ever. Right? She was just there to go on the stream, show off the cosmetics. It was very clear she didn't have any understanding of how the game worked, but you know, she was just someone who showed off the community. And then people were saying like, well, actually, the other developers like, it's really sad to see people, you know, being mean to this person because, you know, I worked with her on a daily basis and know how hard she works. Like, yeah, but we don't see any of that because like nothing is ever communicated. But yeah, controller. Sorry, I keep going off of that topic. Oof. I've got a little bit of a stigma against controller players, not because of their input method or their anything else, just because on my Rise and Fall of Apex video, I get so many controller players telling me how bad I am, and that's the reason why I made the video. It's so many. Like, I will check out people who said like, yeah, the only reason you're saying this is because clearly you're garbage, and I can see in the video that you were in Platinum, right? I check out their channel. They got like live streams on their PS4 of them doing extremely mediocre things, but you know, whatever. Don't throw stones from glass houses is the lesson there. Regardless, I don't think controller is inherently a less skilled form of aim. I think the skill ceiling is significantly lower, because there's just less precision involved, and there's this element of the game. I don't want to say playing for you because that's very reductive. I don't think that's the case either. But there is an element of it that's out of your control. Like, you can learn to control aim assist, but it's like with a mouse and keyboard, every single movement that is inputted onto the screen is your doing, right? There's no other factors involved. It's just you, and it's just like how precisely can you move your muscles in order to click on the enemies, right? But I do have respect for very good controller players, of course. Especially in games with less aim assist. I know that, like, my respect for controller players will vary with the amount of aim assist that is in a game, and the hardiness, of course. I think Apex's is pretty mild. I will say that I have been one-clipped by a few controller players in my time, and whether or not that's based on the input method or their general skill, I would say it's more the person than the controller, right? However, something like, I think Fortnite has extremely busted aim assist, and what else? Like Call of Duty and Halo, it's just ridiculous. Like, it basically aims for you. The fact that it drags your crosshair onto the enemy is not okay. Slowdown makes sense, right? It makes it so tracking is a bit easier, which is why controller players can absolutely decimate you with an R9. But, you know, the games that actually drag your crosshair onto your opponent's head, that's too much. That's too much. I can't respect that. But we're basically working with different sets of difficulties, right? You could say that there's more freedom, more precision that you get with a keyboard and mouse, but it's still not easy, right? Just because it has a high skill ceiling doesn't mean that it's easy to pick up by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I would say that controller has a much lower skill floor, which isn't a bad thing, right? I think that, like, Melee has a lower skill floor than, I don't know, Tekken, right? But it also has an incredibly high skill ceiling. Like, just because it's easy to pick up doesn't mean it has less depth. But, you know, regardless, I really dislike when controller players, like, disparage mouse and keyboard players. Let me bring up a comment that I got the other day, because it's actually made me want to die. Hi Word, hi Riven, hi Third. Alright, here it is. Oh boy. If you really like to improve the way you say you do, then God off PC, it suck and it's too easy, plus you got to do things you don't get to do on console, like looting deathbox and still being able to move, or faster aim and shooting, not to mention the endless hack PC players use, then act like they're gods of the game. Come on. Anyways, step your game up console, you'll love the challenge. I said, I used to play on console, PC aim ain't easy, dude. All you have to do is move a mouse and shoot with a click. If this isn't easy, then I'm sorry to say you suck. For a real challenge, I moved to console and now I'm even better than before. And this is not a comment about Asu, it's the person who replied. What does that mean? What does it mean? Oh my god, it's so bad. It's so bad. All you have to do, boys, is just move a mouse and shoot with a click. It's very easy. Very simple. Just click the heads. I don't understand the issue. It's actually free. You've been using a mouse all your life. What do you mean you can't click on heads? Would you suggest that that person has perhaps not played a sufficient amount of PC games to have an informed opinion? Absolutely not. There's just no way that he would have such a strong opinion without having any foundation for it whatsoever. That would be ridiculous. In a YouTube comment section? No. So yeah, that was probably one of the worst comments I've received so far. The controller elitism is what gets me. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm a PC elitist. A little bit, definitely. I would say that PC is harder. That being said, like, I'm not going to disparage anyone for playing controller. You can do what you want. And there's definitely skill involved in both, so. I feel like things are pretty choppy. Hold on. Right. Alright, what? Huh. That's really strange. I cannot make either of my monitors 144 Hz right now. Even though one of them is plugged in with DisplayPort. No, it says 144. Okay, never mind. We're good. We're good. Pingu Chill, he's probably like 5. You're right. You're right. He's probably just young. I shouldn't disparage him too much. He probably played COD single player on the easiest difficulty and then said PC is easy. Whew. Wait, why do you even bother training? You just have to click on the enemies. Honestly, if you can't do it, you just suck. Sorry to say it. But yeah, this is actually some pretty rough scores that I'm getting today. You know, it's okay. It happens. You know, not every day is going to be a day of seeing new improvements and such. I am using mouse accel, yes. I have played a lot of O's, an extreme amount. Put accuracy small for small targets. Sure, I'll play small again. Oh boy. Do you think it's unfair that... Okay, let me read the whole comment first. Do you think it's unfair that keyboard and mouse players get aim trainers and consoles not? Ooh. So there was a comment. No, I'll just do it from memory. All right. So someone said like, this proves it. This video, my kovaak's video, proves that keyboard and mouse is easier than controller because they have all these tools to improve their aim, and we're just stuck playing the game. Joy emoji. And then I said like, those are completely separate kinds of difficulties. Like, it's just incomparable. And he says like, nah, this wasn't meant as a shot to you. This was meant at a shot to all of the people who play keyboard and mouse who say that it's harder, but you guys have all these ways to improve aim, and therefore that's not the case. My comparison was one that I realized didn't make as much sense in the end of things, but you know, I'm gonna repeat it anyway. All right. I would say that having extra tools to perform something does help, but when it really comes down to it, the execution difficulty is what really matters, right? First of all, I'll also mention that there are, like, I would say an extremely large portion of top FPS players who did not use aim trainers. They just played the game, as you said, and they played it with a certain mindset that let them get to that level. And aim trainers are a relatively new concept outside of like workshop maps for CS, right? But having like external aim trainers is relatively new, I think. But regardless, my analogy was this idea that you have these two Olympic weightlifters, right? One of them has access to the state-of-the-art gym that has like all of the new equipment that is designed for efficiency and, you know, that kind of thing. And the other person is stuck with, you know, just a home set of barbells and some weights and plates that they can put on. Yeah, it's not nothing, but it's not nearly as good. However, when it comes down to it, in the competition, one person has to do like a full clean, and the other person only has to do a deadlift. Right? Even though the tools that they have are definitely less, when it comes down to the execution, you only have to do like half of the motion. I wouldn't say that, I mean, that's obviously an oversimplification, and I wouldn't even say that those are really two halves of the same whole, but that being said, it's the same idea, where when it comes down to it, when it matters, you know, it's better to not have to be able to precisely identify the speed a target is moving at because of aim assist, rather than having tools to improve your aim. Plus, aim trainers are not magic, right? I could definitely get better by just performing other methods, but this one is just very well focused, and there are so many scenarios that help. Like, it's basically just like, it is kind of like weightlifting, right? You're toning specific muscles in your arm, in this case, to help with precision and have that technique to perform consistently. In other news, I've been working with this keyboard layout recently. I think I still have a scene with it. There you go. It's right here. This is the keyboard layout. I haven't started up, so it won't move, but it's a little wonky. And when I did my first stream with it 2 days ago, it was kind of a disaster. Not a complete disaster. Like, obviously, when you get started with a new skill, you're not going to be very good at it. But in that session, I was I had to like full concentration to make sure I made as few typos as possible. And even when I made very few typos, I was still hitting around like 15 words per minute or so. 15, yeah. I think that was my peak, 15. And then yesterday, I decided like this is the best way to force your, or sorry, to improve at something is to force yourself to do it as much as possible. Like, when applicable, of course. And in this case, it's typing, and I do a lot of typing in my off time, because, you know, Discord, stuff like that. And I just forced myself to type at freaking 15 words per minute forever. But it's actually helped a lot. I'm sitting at a nice 30 now. At my peak, at least, is 30, and that's a significant improvement over just 2 days ago, right? So I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm starting to get muscle memory down. Like there were times where I would forget where keys were, and I have to recall like in my mind where the keys were, rather than just being able to seek it out based on my fingers knowing where to go. These are terrible scores, by the way. Holy shit. R7 does not have aim assist. Do you think more games should remove aim assist? Does it really have absolutely no aim assist? I would be surprised. Like, maybe there's no option, but to have absolutely no aim assist would be shocking to me. I don't think... I mean, honestly, my ideal... this sounds terrible. I think that controller and PC should just not interact whatsoever. Because there are just... I mean, obviously, when it comes to fun, you know, crossplay is a good thing. But when it comes to, like, competitive sanctity, at least. In a competitive setting, I don't think that the two input methods should ever interact, right? They are pretty wholly different in the way that they have their difficulties and improvement indexes, I suppose. And it's just unfair in either direction. Like, they don't allow keyboard and mouse on console for a very obvious reason, and I think it should be the same way with controller on PC, or at least no aim assist, right? Oh, at the end there, for a moment, I kind of felt it again. I figured out how to aim smoothly instead of just like sending my crosshair into the ether. Alright, I'm sending it again. This is bad. This is so bad. Let me slow down just a tad. Because, I've been talking so much that these scores have been such a disaster. What the heck? What happened? Cut off in the middle of my song. Alright, still not good, but whatever. He's a platform segregationist. Oh, the controversy. Do you like spammers? Not at all. Great to see you on the grind, Pinglefy. You make me want to get better. Hey, I'm glad to hear it. Last words before the career ends. Do you prefer mouse acceleration over raw input? I guess it wouldn't be considered raw input, huh? A little bit, yeah. A little bit. I think it's a really, really cool concept, and that's why I tried it. As for whether or not I'm better with it, I mean, this 891 was done with mouse accel, and my scores overall have improved. But there have been bouts of inconsistency I've had in a few FPS games, and I don't know whether or not that's because of my mouse accel or because of me. And I'm like 90% sure it's me, but I can't be certain. I don't like blaming things that I like, my peripherals or stuff like that, but you know, it's hard to say. How's the accel meme going? It's going pretty well. It's going pretty well. This has been a pretty bad session, however. Let's see. What do you think about the Nintendo Switch? I would like you guys to give me reasons to buy a Switch, because I'm like vaguely interested, but I don't think I will. Like, my motivations would be Tetris 99, That's about it, actually. I can't think of anything else. Like SSBU, not really into it. Smash, there you go. Zelda, okay. I did hear about what is it, Breath of the Wild, being an amazing game. Hold on, let me play some like really basic tracking because I need to work on some smoothness real quick. Breath of the Wild is insane. Smash, Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing, okay, that's fair. I did have a pretty strong love for that game in the past. However, it's definitely not something I would play right now because I don't think it's a good fit for my channel. Another reason I turned up my sensitivity a little bit was that the other day I got recommended the scenario of popcorn, which is a very notorious scenario in the kovaak sphere, for being tough as nails, right? And I struggled really hard. It was not pretty. And part of the reason was that I had a really hard time keeping up with the movement of the targets. It was hard. And I felt like that part of it was obviously going to be me, but also the fact that my low sense would, you know, it's difficult to keep up without like fully engaging my arm or something like that. It's hard. I don't understand. Animal Crossing seems like its only appeal is getting gamer girls. What do you mean? Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is quite fun for me. Isn't your profile picture from Xenoblade? I've had a passing interest in that franchise for a long time, but I've never played it myself. Yes, I am playing with mouse acceleration. I'm not playing well, but I am playing with it. I think I'm trying too hard to go fast when I should be trying to be smooth. Smoothness is actually my #1 weakness, I think. Maybe that's not true, but I'm not a hard aimer. I've been trying to be more of one. And I think speed is important, but I think for consistency's sake, soft aim is king. I will say that I installed Shadowplay the other day, partially because I need to get some more clips for the finale of the mouse accel video. However, actually, I forgot what I was going to say. I thought of another tangent. I'll just go on that one instead. So before I started stream, I saw a video that came up with my recommendations about taking 7 days to do aim training, right? 7 days, and he had a very, very methodical and scientific way of going about it. He had a bunch of like scatter plots and graphs and spreadsheets, which I like spreadsheets a lot, but as for the raw data aspect of things, that's something I've been neglecting in both here and in the kovaak's video, right? I think that would be great information. I don't think it really has as wide of an appeal for like a YouTube audience, but that aside, you know, it would be better and would be smarter to keep that kind of information. Oh yeah, right. With the Shadowplay thing is that recording yourself is a really, really good way to illuminate the issues you have, especially when you're panicked in fights. Because, you know, when you're playing well, you're playing to your own standards and with your own habits, right? But when you get into that panic situation, you kind of lose a sense of what you're doing and you go to a state of impulse. And I noticed that after watching myself play with Shadowplay is that my movement gets very, very choppy, and that actually interferes with the smoothness of my aim, and it causes me to miss a lot, especially tracking. Aiming with movement is a very invaluable skill, and I do it when I'm feeling confident and I'm feeling calm, but in the panic situations is when it kind of degenerates, and that's something that needs to be worked on, but I wouldn't have known it without recording myself, so would recommend. That was kind of a standard in TF2 as well. For Comp 6's teams, you would always record your own demos, which are like video recordings of your games, and then as a team you would go through and review them to analyze for like mistakes, team play, stuff like that. because it's just the best way to go about with improving on mistakes, which is like one of the core tenets of improvement, right? Finding your weaknesses, getting them to be ironed out, and you may not even notice your weaknesses unless you're watching it from like a third-person perspective. Oof. It is but it's 0.9 to 1.8 now. Quake and TF2, we would review our demos in groups so we could iron out our own weaknesses. Kovacs or Aim God? I played Aim God a little bit. I'm not a huge fan currently. I think that there were some really, really good scenarios and really good ideas that that game has, or that Aim Trainer, I suppose. First of all, sleek UI, better visuals by Kovacs by a mile, but I'm not here to play Aim Trainers for the UI, right, or the visuals. I'm here to play it for the scenarios and for like how the benefit of the aim training that you get. And the Aim God scenarios are just not quite there yet, right? I think that there are a lot of good ones, like there's bounce pad scenarios that are really, really cool that I highly approve of, but there are scenarios that are just like versions of Kovacs ones, but worse. And the sheer volume of scenarios in Kovacs is just king right now, right? You can't get better than that. I do think, however, that if Aim God continues to make strides in the way that it has, that it can overtake Kovacs as the preeminent aim trainer. But for now, I can't recommend it in good faith, unless you don't want to spend the $5 extra, because then I'd say that Aim God is adequate. I also love the fact that it has better like data collection, like it plots your scores for you, and that's cool to me. Recently started watching you. I find your mindset of taking ownership of your mistakes and not blaming other things out of your control very refreshing. Thank you, thank you. I will say that I do, like, I'm a human, right? I will blame lag when it is lag, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I'm still going to self-analyze, right? I was watching a friend stream the other day play Final Fantasy XIV, and they were doing a raid. I don't know whatever the newest one is, right? The newest progression raid. Like a dragon lady or something like that. Regardless, people in that raid, I was listening to the comms and like everyone kept blaming, like, oh, I didn't do this, my character just kept going, oh my god, the lag is so bad, I just can't play. Like, just shut up, it's your fault. I don't care, maybe it is the game's fault. You need to start taking ownership of your mistakes, and this is why they aren't progressing. Like, they just keep blaming external factors outside of their control for their problems with the raid, and they're just not getting better. They're not making the corrections they need to in order to improve. And that's kind of how it was with my raiding experience as well. Like, at times we do great, other times I'd be like, oh my god, the game just lagged out and I couldn't do anything. Like, okay, well, it didn't lag out for me for the past 20 runs, so, you know, must be something wrong with your game. I knew you were there in that stream. They did get rolled. I mean, that's progression. You don't get it for the first 4 or 5 weeks. It's hard. But you don't get better if you blame the game. I have a huge pet peeve with people blaming the game for when they make horrendous misplays. Stuff like walking into a 1v3 in the open and then saying, like, there's nothing I can do. There's just too many. Like, you just could have, like, not walked in the open. Oh my god. Honestly, I kind of like forget to breathe sometimes when I play Kovacs. And Ellis was the same way. When I'm in full concentration mode, breathing is secondary. But no, it's a bad habit. I think my reaction time and getting back to the target is pretty bad right now. I'll blame that on the lack of coffee in my system. That was a decent run actually. 65, not bad at all. Oh, he did change it. I could be thinking it was out. That's correct. Yeah, I started with 0.7 to 1.7. So yeah. Mouse acceleration Y. Good mouse acceleration is linear, meaning that it scales in a 1-to-1 rate with like speed of your mouse versus speed of the sensitivity, and it basically allows for really low precision when you want it at will. Sorry, really high precision with really low sense at will, and really higher sense, you know, when you need that as well. Breathing is inferior to the Ultimate Multiplier. Do you find this more difficult the more you do it, or is it like repeating trial and error? Do you mean like in a session or over time? Because in a session, there definitely is a point when you start getting worse due to fatigue and like losing focus after playing for so long, and I think that would be an adequate time to take a break, right? Where's one wall pass? There it is. Yeah, that'd be an adequate time to take a break. As for overtime, not really. I kind of enjoy the raw process of aim training. In fact, the person I was talking about earlier in the Final Fantasy XIV raid, we had a very long conversation about improvement and found that we had pretty much similar ideals about game design and our improvement philosophy, like almost across the board. But something that really struck me is that even though he loves, or like he's got a really good interest in AFPSs like Quake and stuff, because he sees that as like raw skill, which is true. It's true. He does not care for hit scan aim at all. Like he just doesn't find it as compelling to improve it, which definitely shocked me as someone. Like he loves fighting games. He loves SC2, stuff like that. All of the raw mechanical stuff. But with aim, he just didn't care for it. Can anyone name the original for this song? This is the MM710 Cooler Master. I watched your most recent video, but I don't think I caught the answer. And how do you find your sensitivity? Do I just play around until I'm comfy? Is there a method I should use? I would say that the phrase "finding your sensitivity" is kind of faulty, right? I changed my sensitivity yesterday. I don't think, like, there are people who will use the same sensitivity for years and years, but I guarantee you if they changed it, they would still do fine, right? Obviously, in the extremes, you're going to be engaging different muscle groups, right? If you have low sensitivity, you're going to be having a lot of arm aim involvement, and if you use high sensitivity, you're going to have an increased demand on precision with your wrist and fingertips. As a result, like, you could choose a sensitivity in one of those ranges that will help you to learn, how to engage those muscle groups. But I would say just picking something in the middle ground, not too high and not too low, would be a good starting point if you're just learning fundamentals. And if you find that you're uncomfortable, then just change it, I would say don't make it a habit of blaming your sensitivity, however. Changing your sensitivity is absolutely fine and does not impede muscle or like technique improvement. However, blaming your sensitivity will. Yes, I do still regularly play. Honestly, I have been in a sort of rut with Apex as of late. I just don't enjoy it as much as I used to, and it's just not been as fun to play. However, I kind of had a rejuvenated interest. Okay, so the way I'm going to put it is the idea that in my off time, I would never play Apex. Like, I would only do it on stream and with friends, right? But I would never play it for the game's own merits. It's not bad, per se. It's just that it's, the raw DM aspect of it has kind of been lost in translation over time. And it's a little frustrating. But regardless, I've kind of had a rejuvenated interest and, like, an inspiration and an urge to play that game more because I've been picking up Pathfinder again. I don't know, something about it. I don't know. I don't think it's like his raw mobility that makes me enjoy it so much, but it's I just play differently. Like, I play more aggressively and take these really strange plays just because they're cool, I feel like you have more agency over your own positioning in a fight, and I guess that would do it. And of course, the raw mobility is cool. People get too worked up worked up about their mice, DPI sense, etc. Absolutely agreed, yeah. It's definitely not as big of a deal as people would expect, and finding your own sensitivity is not really a... It's like a myth, I suppose. There's no one sensitivity that you will sit with and stay forever because that's the one for you, right? You can change it. You're pretty much as good as you are, right? You're not as good as your sensitivity or setup allows. Obviously, there are physical limitations when it comes to like 60 hertz or a legitimately bad mouse, but you're not going to become an aim god because you pick up the new Final Mouse Ultralight 17 Tournament Edition TE or whatever, right? Like, I could pick up a dollar store mouse and do just fine in Apex, right? It'll be worse without a doubt, and the tracking issues will not be great, but gaming is much more about technique than it is about anything else. I played on 60 hertz for a while too, and like, of course, my analytical skills were worse, but it really wasn't that bad. I would say that frame rate being less than 60 is a significant enough excuse to play poorly. But even then, like, there are definitely going to be players who will do better with you with the same setup. I've been thinking a lot about talent lately, because people always say like, wow, you're really talented, I wish I had talents like you, or like someone came to me and said like, I put in more time into all of these skills, but people are just getting better than me at a faster rate, and it actually makes me really upset with myself. And I was kind of that way with OS, right? I would get annoyed if I saw someone with a lower play count than me, but they had scores that I couldn't do, right? Because I felt like, not that I was talented, but I knew how to get better at like being a well-rounded player. And there are people that I encounter in my life that kind of make me think like, what this person, it maybe not as a result of hard work, but rather just like pure genetic skill has improved at a faster rate. And that's kind of true for one person that I knew in OS. And someone, well, okay, I do want to clarify that these people I'm talking about, they definitely also put in a lot of effort. But the rate of improvement that they achieved, I don't know, like, is it based on genetics? Is it based on the way they went about their skill improvement? It's hard to say. I personally don't attribute, like, almost any of the skills that I have due to genetics or talent, right? That's because I just put in a lot of time to these things, and I don't think I'm so good above anyone else that it's because of talent that it's the case. I'm of the mindset that anyone can do what I do, like no matter who you are, unless you have like some sort of physical disability, right? But there are a few people who seemingly have like half the time I do in games and can like keep up. It was that way with someone I know from Blade and Soul who went out to play FPS with me and like would do decently against me in a 1v1 in TF2, even though he's like doesn't play that much or that seriously. And he also does quite well in Apex as well. Like, oh damn. Feels like it doesn't feel like I've wasted time or anything, but it's certainly a strange situation. Because it's impossible to say if something is based on talent or not. I know he doesn't care that much about improvement, so it's got to play some role in it. But yeah, if you let those kind of things get to you, it will destroy you without a doubt. So comparison to others is healthy when it comes to competition, but I would say that if you obsess about it, it will like actually drive you insane. Because there's always going to be someone, well, almost always, I suppose, going to be someone who's done better than you in a shorter amount of time. Because IQ, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe that's also why that ping pong the animation resonated with me so much, or to an extent, because it was kind of a talent versus hard work kind of thing, you know. Sleep has a very large significance in your learning curve. How many hours do you sleep per night? Enough. I would agree though. Sleep is actually insanely important. There were a few streams I tried to do while I was not sleeping or not sleeping well, and it was a huge hindrance. Please calm down with the spam, MD Mozamel. Please make a video for R99 use kovaaks. Just do tracking scenarios, man. Like, R99 recoil is hard to learn at first, but it's pretty simple. You more or less just drag down at the correct speed. Finding that correct speed and being able to commit it to muscle memory is not an easy task, but it just takes time, right? It's not like CS where it's super unintuitive. Sit in the training room for a few hours, shoot long-range targets with an R9, try to spray them down, hit every bullet. And then come into kovaaks if you have it, play some tracking scenarios, and then the two will fit together. New high score, thank you. Wouldn't it be more ideal if you want a very good precision and high sense by using mouse accel? You get a mouse accel graph from the that arctangent to the X. What? I honestly do not know how that would graph. My knowledge of trigonometry is failing me here. However, I don't know. There are definitely ways of doing mouse accel other than linear that people have gotten good at, but I do think that linear for me is the most intuitive. And the reason that most mouse accel drivers aren't good is because they use these wacky formulas that just don't make any sense. And it's almost impossible to commit these crazy formulas into muscle memory. Oh man. Is this good for Rainbow Six Siege? I couldn't tell you for sure, but it trains raw aim, so I don't see why not. Are you motivated or dedicated? Because after a week of kovaaks, I feel actually egg. What do you mean actually egg? Any game he's made counts as a BR game. I would say with gaming, it's hard to be like dedicated without having that motivation. You know, with exercise, you can tell yourself it's healthy, yeah, right? This will be good for me in the long run, and that's why I have to force myself to do it. Or with music, I mean, I guess that'd be a similar thing as gaming. But gaming, unless you're trying to be an esports professional, is something you do out of enjoyment and for fun, right? And for those of you who do not enjoy aim trainers, like it could just not be for you. Aim training isn't for everyone. And a great portion of professional players don't even partake in it, right? Because they don't need to. If you aren't having fun with the improvement process, then, I don't know, take a break, come back to it later. But forcing yourself to do something in a video game environment, if you're just doing it for enjoyment, seems like a pretty poor idea. Like, I'd say break is definitely step one, right? You can come back to it later, see if you come back with a fresh mind, or like redo your routine a little bit and see if that changes your opinion on it. Or maybe just it's not for you. Use a different method. Play against someone in a 1v1 instead. Or just play the game normally and then self-analyze. I would say if you're playing a BR, that is not sufficient because you need that raw aim and you just don't get that from fighting so infrequently. But if you're playing like Overwatch, you're playing TF2 or CS, you can find enough people to train your aim against. Ever played Paganini's 24th Caprice on the violin? I was learning Paganiniana, which is like a variations on Paganini's 24th Caprice before my video blew up, but I did not get to any level of competence at it before I quit. I didn't quit, but I wanted to put all my focus into content creation once the video blew up, so my plans to improve at it didn't, go through. If I have aim lab instead of kovaaks, can I do the same routine? No, but you can do the same idea. I don't think the exact scenarios matter that much, and I can't tell you for certain whether or not the scenarios in aim labs are good. If you just like aim trainer, just play with the game with more frequent fights to grab out your DM like MGE. Agreed. Wait, what was I reading again? Yeah, aim labs and kovaaks. Yeah, I don't have any experience with aim labs, so I really can't tell you if it's a significant loss of quality in terms of scenarios. But, the general tracking that comes with aim trainers is really the main benefit. There are very few games that offer in-game tracking scenarios. Like people say, just play CSDM, and yes, that's actually a great way to grind your click timing. However, there's a lot of other things that go into it, like your CS mechanic, counter strafing, stuff like that. But this is a very isolated method to do it. It has been an hour, so I'll answer a few more questions before I head to Twitch. Use the same settings of Apex on kovaaks, for example. I use the same sensitivity, if that's what you mean. I use the same FOV, so yeah, I guess so, yeah. Apex Legends 1. I tried invert mouse for a little bit, and it's kind of cool, but I don't know if I'd be into it. It feels so weird, and I love, like, breaking muscle memory habits and trying something new, but I don't know. Maybe someday. Oh my god, left-hand pizzicato on pack 24. I didn't know left-hand pits was a thing until I saw that variation. I'm like, what is this? It blew my freaking mind. I would love to learn it. I really would. But I honestly can barely even produce a note with left-hand pits because I haven't practiced it at all. I do not train reaction time, no. Maybe I should. Can you match your sense in kovaaks to other games? Yes. There's a drop-down menu here. You can pick your sense. How many buttons is that final mouse? This is not a final mouse. This is a Cooler Master MM710, and it's got a left click, right click, DPI, mouse wheel down, and then the 2 side buttons. That's it. Raid my channel now. I'm not live. I just mean raid it. Doesn't matter if you use different res and kovaaks and CS. Not really. I mean, 4-3 stretched. I don't know. There's a lot of different. This is FOV measurement. I see. I think it would matter for FOV, but either way, aim training is mostly just about technique more so than anything else. I would say. So these are just changing my sense between games, so they're all the same. I do. I know Skadoodle doesn't, and he's way better than me in FPS games. So it's really preference. I would say if you're first picking up mechanics and you're first picking up new games, you can go with that method of using the same sense in several games. Yeah, that's correct. The camera's mirrored. You planning on playing Valorant? I need a key, and I don't really want to sit in streams for 100 years. Looks a lot like the Ultralight. I think this one is a bit shorter and maybe wider than the Ultralight. The keyboard is HHKB Pro 2. Your muscle memory will adapt in a few hours. True. When do you start noticing improvement when using kovaaks? It'll probably be imperceptible for a long time. I would say that having footage of your old gameplay is a really good way to measure how much you've improved. Because like during the whole process, I didn't really feel on a day-to-day basis like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have hit that shot earlier. Except like at the very end, I would look at my old footage and I'm like, wow, that's actually more significant than I thought. Like, you can watch my first video on YouTube of, well, actually don't watch it because it's bad, but it's like a TF2 pup stomper comes to Apex. Terrible video, but it's gameplay that I thought was pretty good at the time, and looking back on it now, it's really not very good, right? It's okay, and I had some decent shots, but that's a more realistic comparison of my before and after with kovaaks. Like, it was okay, but the precision that I've gained from kovaaks is definitely noticeable afterwards. Yeah, I agree. And Final Mouse is not worth buying. Unless you have like an insane amount of money to burn. And it seemed like the perfect fit for your hands. You're very likable. I want to hug you. Thank you. I do want to read this comment about 4-3. Because honestly, 4-3 is something I never really got into. But it seemed interesting. In my experiences, resolution makes a big difference. On CSGO's the default res, I can't aim for shit because it feels so heavy and slow. But if I change it to 4:3, then my mouse goes where I expect it to. That is very interesting. Because I know that CS players love their 4:3 stretched. And I heard that you actually can't use 4:3 stretched on Valorant, which is sad. And I heard they also broke it on Apex Legends, but whatever. I don't know. It's something I've always been interested in, but never got into. But regardless, I'm going to move to Twitch. I think I'm gonna read some YouTube comments for like an hour, because I want some other people to share in my pain a little bit when it comes to that video, and I that's also good for talking because I have a lot to say in response to those comments. I don't want to type it all out right now, so after that I'm gonna play probably like 3 hours of Apex with random viewers. And lastly, I'll probably do an hour of like Type Racer or Bomb Party because I want to get better at this weird keyboard layout that I picked up. Anyway, one of the issues I feel I have is day to day being different, like your skill. Like that's just natural. Unfortunately, that's just human nature. You will never perform perfectly or at the exact same standard every single day. You can do your best to be consistent, but you know sometimes you're just gonna have off days, and that's okay. Regardless, here's my end screen. Going to Twitch, random viewers. Heck you word. I do want to play with completely new viewers this time though. All right, I'm spamming my link, boys. I appreciate you guys watching. I was talking a lot today. I did not get too many scores. I did get a new 1 wall, 5 targets, pasu track, high score, which was surprising. But regardless, appreciate you guys chatting with me, asking questions, getting me going on these rants. Yeah, it was a good time. I'll see you there, hopefully. We'll be streaming on Twitch for like probably 4 hours or something. So, later.